So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this, man.
Showdown between the Sun and the Fever turned into a complete circus, 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrants all in one wild night. But in the middle of that chaos came one explosive moment that had the internet throwing popcorn and picking sides. Marina Mabrey took a blatant, cheap shot at Caitlin Clark, shoving her to the ground out of nowhere, and somehow wasn't tossed. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham got booted without hesitation, and fans were quick to slam the glaring double standard.
Are here the night after WNBA Fight Night. Sophie Cunningham putting JC Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
You were already furious. Wait till you hear about Mabrey's reaction after the incident. Do you think the league should strictly enforce its rules and suspend Mabry now? Let us know in the comments below. Let's.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation is.
Then, after all the dust settled, the league sneakily decided to reclassify Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2. No press release, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet update tucked into the league site. So now the big question is, how did the refs miss it in real time, and why? Did it take an avalanche of outrage for the league to react? Even more importantly, will Mabry face a suspension like commentators heavily hinted she should during the broadcast?
Like, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, the contact made by Mabry did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a technical foul, not even a flagrant.
Flagrant, stay awake. We'll get into exactly how and why the WNBA overruled its own officiating crew, and whether that fix actually helped or just made things worse. But before we get there, let's break down the shove that ignited the firestorm. A
lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected, JC gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And you know, in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's call it what it was, a full-speed blindside hit. Caitlin Clark didn't even see it coming. She was just playing the game head turned. And then bam, launched her to the floor. It wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The crowd erupted instantly. And so did the commentators. Everyone expected a flagrant 2, maybe even a fast track ejection, but no. Mabry walked away with a basic technical, and the game carried on like nothing happened. The broadcasters stunned the players, furious fans absolutely losing.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. Like, that's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Social media blew up with people asking the same thing. How is she still in the game? What are the refs even looking at? It wasn't just Clark fans either. It was neutral observers, former players, analysts, everyone pointing out how the officials were losing grip on the game. Things only got more frustrating when you looked at the rest of the calls. Sophie Cunningham was tossed on the spot for a hard play that didn't come close to what Mabry did.
At this angle, you can see just how far JC Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor. I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly, she just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
Sophie got the boot instantly, while Mabry stuck around after what was clearly a more reckless and dangerous foul. The whole thing screamed uneven enforcement of the rules.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlyn's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlyn with the shove. Caitlyn does not move JC Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlyn Clark does not move JC Sheldon. They're like, Caitlyn shoved Sheldon. Caitlyn literally, JC Sheldon's still moving forward. So JC Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and then Chaser, and Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
People kept piling on asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same standards were applied across the board, there's no way Mabry should have been allowed to keep playing, but the inconsistencies didn't end at the final buzzer. Nope, that's when the WNBA's damage control kicked in.
Well, she ended up stating this: Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play.
People kept piling on asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same standards were applied across the board, there's no way Mabry should have been allowed to keep playing, but the inconsistencies didn't end at the final buzzer. Nope, that's when the WNBA's damage control kicked in.
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey.
Let's not forget Caitlin Clark herself got hit with a technical for reacting after someone clawed her in the eye. Sophie Cunningham got fined and flagged for a play that didn't look half as vicious as Mabry's. Every whistle felt like it came from a different rule book. If Marie had been tossed when she should have been, the game would have had a very different tone. Instead, we got this patchwork fixed long after the damage was done.
It's kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season, to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever.
Now everyone's wondering the same thing: how are players and fans supposed to trust what's happening on the floor when the rules seem to shift minute to minute? The divide between what officials do live and what the league does after review is only growing wider, and the kicker, that refs and league can't even seem to agree on what's worthy of a flagrant. That's not just a bad look, it's a crisis of credibility. So let's cut to the chase. Who actually bears responsibility for this mess? The refs in the heat of the moment, or the league that swooped in only after the uproar? All eyes instantly shifted to referee Ashley Gloss, who after the final buzzer explained that Marina Mabrey's shove didn't meet the bar for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabry walked away with just a technical foul and stayed in the game. Gloss was firm live. It didn't hit the threshold.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the none.
The WNBA quietly overruled its own official crew, bumping the penalty up to a flagrant 2. That flip-flop speaks volumes. It's not merely a correction, it's a public contradiction. And now the echoing question resonates: how does a play go from not worthy of the boot to ejection-level violence in just a few hours?
Contact made by Mabry did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2.
Instantly, social media erupted. Clips circulated with captions like, "What do these refs even see?" Fans and analysts were scrambling to reconcile the split in judgment. It wasn't just Gloss's crew under the microscope, it was the entire league. Are the WNBA doing what it claims, or are they cooking decisions in the aftermath of public backlash? Are we seeing a system that corrects itself, or one that chases sensationalism?
Out with this statement saying, yeah, it was a flagrant.
The game itself was already a powder keg: 6 technicals, 3 ejections, and a tornado of hard fouls. Yet the peculiar thing was the technical flag on Caitlin Clark She was flagged for unsportsmanlike behavior after instinctually reacting to an eye poke and a dead ball bump from J.C. Sheldon.
So this just clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that happened.
How does that even compare to a deliberate blindside shove then? There's Sophie Cunningham's ejection, a perfectly timed hard foul flagged live and confirmed with an additional fine afterward. Meanwhile, Mabry's more blatant transgression was downgraded temporarily during the game, only for the league to quietly bump it later.
Was why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? She ended up coming back and saying, after the foul by Sheldon, Clark reacted in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. Huh?
That level of inconsistency is what fuels the fire. How can one player be tossed for a standard hard foul while another gets to keep playing after a play that felt much more violent, the result a widening gap in trust between fans, coaches, players, and now officials? The variance from one call to the next, especially inside a single game, raises alarming doubts about who's really running.
Now the flagrant with Sophie, I'm still questioning that. I'm still questioning because it looked like a take foul, fam. And don't tell me y'all never seen somebody grab LeBron James, like hold him like both of his arms, try to hold him down. He fights through it, still makes the bucket. Don't tell me y'all never seen.
Change what kind of pressure are refs under when they're making split-second calls in front of tens of thousands in arena and hundreds of thousands watching at home. Gloss says she believed Mabry's shove didn't scream flagrant, but watching it back, it was textbook. The game's enormous stakes, Commissioners Cup implications, Clark's rising stardom, and an already loaded slate of technicals shouldn't excuse a misstep. This glaring referee accountability isn't just a buzzword, it's the foundation of a fair, competitive environment.
At the end of the day, as long as bad referees are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as bad referees can get away with every single thing they want and can get away with stuff like this, nothing will ever change.
And let's not ignore the elephant in the court. Trust. If untimely calls are tolerated live only to be massively upgraded later, what do fans, players, and coaches even believe in anymore? How do you explain to teams that react to a play in real time when the rules seem to shift after the fact? Not only does that shake faith in officiating, but it sends the message that accountability is optional, reactive, and contingent on social media outrage. Then there's the psychological toll on players like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin reacts in the moment, natural human response to being poked in the eye, and gets flagged, while Mabry's dangerous shove goes unpunished until later. It undermines the entire fabric of competition. Is the league saying it's acceptable to punch a star in their prime as long as they get points off by the evening? Because that's exactly the dangerous precedent.
It's good that the refs did something about it, but they should have did something about it way earlier. They could have prevented all of this. They could have prevented every bit of this, but they chose not to.
Dollars. And what about Marina Mabrey herself? Did she shrink under the spotlight? Not at all. She leaned into it in a post-game TikTok that went viral. She cracks. Every time they comment, I make dollars. No remorse, no shy deflection. This is attitude meeting self-awareness. And she's using controversy as branding. She's not backing down. She's redirecting. It's bold, maybe reckless, but it's transparent. Fans either love it or loathe it, but they can't deny its results, attention, notoriety, and yes, sordid streaming hits.
Marina Mabrey commented on TikTok about the whole situation, and this is what she said. Every time they comment, I make dollars.
Now comes the bigger question. When a superstar like Caitlin Clark and her guardian Sophie are at risk, madame, but the league only intervenes after cameras flash and timelines explode, what does it say about the WNBA's confidence in its officials when controversial fouls multiply in postgame? Fixes feel more like damage control. We don't just lose calls, we lose legitimacy.
If you guys don't know about Sophie Cunningham and Marina Mabrey, who these two people are, like, you need to just know the lore. Like, Marina Mabrey, this is how like, Dejanay calls Marina Mabrey her evil.
The league needs to draw a line literally and figuratively. If the live officiating doesn't enforce it, the video review should immediately back the right call in real time, not after the fact. If they can find and upgrade calls later, they should be able to toughen enforcement when it matters in real time to protect player safety, competitive integrity, and Clark's remarkable ascent fina.
Marina Mabrey is a crash out artist. Like, there's literally this page, if you guys haven't seen, called Women Hooping. And 90% of what they do.
This situation reminds me of circuit breaker rules in other sports. Step over the line, and you're out instantly. Delay the enforcement, and the penalty becomes meaningless. But when enforcement is sideways, reactive, and inconsistent, it turns the entire system upside down. Fans, sponsors, rookies, everyone wonders what or who is really protected by the rules, and as the dust settles from this lead shove incident, we still haven't gotten real answers. Gloss said it didn't qualify. The WNBA said otherwise after escalating outrage. Clark and Sophie now bear the weight of their own retribution, madame. But what about officiating clarity? The league doesn't appear to have a ready answer, and that's the problem. We need consistent standards, immediate accountability, and clarity from the WNBA office yesterday, not tomorrow. If not, expect more fights, more post-buzzer justifications, more tension, because social media outrage isn't a rule book, it's a reaction. And after a while, even reactions run dry. The question is, will the WNBA act before the next spotlighted game, or will they continue chasing the headline after the buzzer? Do you think the league should strictly enforce its rules and suspend Mabry now? Let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next